Yo, what is up YouTube? And today we have a PvP tier list for Etheria Restart. Now the PvP season for server 1, which is the day 1 server, actually just ended and I did end up ranking in the top 50. That's why I have this banner. I think this banner is for top 200 actually, but I did rank in I think the top 50 something. So I got it and I got my rewards. And basically, I've been doing a lot of PvP mostly because of the weekly quests. I've been watching a lot of the content creator tournaments, and I'm here to just tell you what my thoughts on the current meta is. Now keep in mind, this is just my own opinion. You're allowed to disagree. Just let me know in the comments down below where you think some characters should be moved up and down, and I'm happy to take that into consideration for the next tier list that I make. So we'll probably be making this every arena season just so the meta, just because the meta changes a lot and just to keep everything up to date. But you're going to see that we have 4 separate tiers here. We have the meta-defining tier, just super powerful characters that you'll see universally in a ton of defense teams. They're going to be picked very, very frequently in RTA and highly contested, and just very strong overall. You have the strong tier. These characters are still very powerful. However, you cannot blindly pick them as easily, and you do need to think about your team comp somewhat when picking them, but they're still very good in the right situations. We have the OK tier. These characters are going to be decent, but they need pretty specific team comps to work, and they're also going to require some specific sets or setups with like shells, which might make them not as great, but they're still pretty good characters. And then we have the mid tier. These characters I'm going to say that you should stay away from for PvP, at least because of the fact that their kits are mostly designed for PvE, or they're just kind of undertuned. So starting off, to no one's surprise, we have Lily. Lily is the best unit in the game, hands down, for just pretty much every single area of content. PvP is not excluded from that. She is super powerful because of her speed buff. She has that twin trick, which can make your slow damage dealer or even your slow bruiser do a lot more damage while cycling a lot more quickly. She can reset the cooldown on the enemy side and your ally side on the twin trick character, and she's just very annoying with her follow-up attacks. You can use her in cleave comps. If you're using her with like a Messiah, you just boost him up and kind of just win. You can use her in turn 2 comps with like Tiamat or like Holden, just because she's so broken. And she's also broken in control comps. If you're running any control comps, you kind of need Lily because the twin trick is very important for just chaining CCs. For example, if you pair her with like Kazuya the Reverie, they can just, kind of like 2-man solo teams, which is super frustrating. Next up, we have Mio. So Mio is another character that is super good at controlling the speed game. She's very good as a turn 1 character. The only thing is, she does get countered by Bulwark set, but you can easily combat that by bringing a stripper behind her. Well, that sounds very weird, but it's someone that can dispel the Bulwark off, such as Heinrich or like a Holden even. But against Bulwark, she does struggle, but she's pretty good on defense teams. She is very scary for a lot of players because if she actually takes the first turn and you don't have a way to stop her turn meter pushback, you pretty much just lose the game right away. Like there's no counterplay. So because of that, she's a very powerful character for PvP, and her CC is super, super frustrating. Similar to Lily, you can bring her into any team comp and she will always work because she just wins you the game if she takes the first turn. So it literally doesn't matter what characters you bring, which makes her very good. Next, we have Freya. So Freya is a very powerful support for PvP right now. And it's mostly because of the fact that her S1 has that passive where it will push up your team for buffs they get and push back the enemy team for debuffs. In a way, you could think of it as like a way to amplify the turn meter manipulation on your team. For example, if you're pushing something up with Lily's S2, it gets pushed up even more because of Freya's passive. And if you have something like a Kazuya the Reverie to push people back, or like a Kloss, it gets pushed back even more when you land debuffs. So just a very powerful character. The Nightmare debuff is very strong. And in a pinch, her S2 is amazing at protecting your team against damage dealers. Next we have Messiah. Messiah is just broken in PvP, best damage dealer. If he takes his turn, you're just dead. So you have to kind of counter him by not letting him take his turn or killing him beforehand. But there's some ways to protect him, which makes it very frustrating. And if you actually don't get to kill him before his S3 turn, he'll either one-shot your entire team when he has 0 buffs, and when you have 0 defense breaks, you can still get one-shot right off the bat. Or he will make you like at 10%. You pretty much lost the game. So just a very powerful character. Even through attack down, he can one-shot your carries, which makes him one of the best damage dealers. Actually, which makes him the best damage dealer for PvP. So next we have Valerian. Valerian's very good at stopping one-shots in PvP because of her cheat death. She also provides a barrier, provides attack buff, invincibility. She's very strong at stopping cleave. There's ways to play around her, such as like with White Fang and stuff like that, and extra attacks and follow-up attacks. But besides that, she's very good. It kind of makes it so that you need to play around her passive always. You'll see that she's in a lot of defense teams, especially with Messiah and Lily, because Lily takes the first turn, Messiah's there to just clean up, and Valerian prevents you from getting, cheesed in any way. And then whatever fourth unit you run, it's really up to you. Usually it's like Freya, right? Next we have Kloss. So Kloss, I think, is on the cusp of meta defining and strong. I don't think she's on the same tier as these 5, so maybe I'll drop her down like to here. But she's very good with her debuffs. She has a very good turn meter pushback. I think she's very strong when you pair her with something like a Freya or Lily, just because of the fact that Lily Kloss can actually speed up and speed down AoE, which is insanely broken. You lap over and over, and Kloss and Freya together make it so that when Kloss S3s, it activates a turn meter pushback because of Freya's passive and they're slowed. So definitely a strong unit, very strong in just a lot of areas of PvP. So next we have the strong characters. These characters are also very good. I won't talk about them as much in depth, but I'll just say, where you want to use them. So Tsukiyomi is a very good turn meter pusher. She has 100% turn meter push, so if she goes first and you have Messiah and you push him up, he will just one-shot your team with attack buff. So you can actually see on the ladder, especially early on into the seasons, a lot of people that, started like Mythic or ended Mythic and dropped to Diamond 1 because that's where everyone drops. They bait people into attacking them with just 2 units, Tsukiyomi and Messiah, and then they just win. So it's pretty frustrating to deal with. The only really counter to that is like Bloodbath set, but people don't really have the Bloodbath Matrix on farm from Aurora yet because Aurora is by far the hardest threshold. So you can see that she's very good at pushing, very strong DPS, and is super frustrating. Next up we have Kazuyo the Reverie. So this is a very good unit for Doki Doki and PvE in general as a CC character, but she's also extremely powerful in PvP. She has a Slumber on AoE, she has Attack Down, she can push back with her passive, which is insane. It just makes it very annoying to play against her because she can like pretty much solo control your team. If you pair her with Lily, this is like a very deadly duo, Lily and Kazuyo, because you're just permanently just 1x1 2-turn sleeping teams. And if that's the case and you land all your sleeps, you literally just single target down one character at a time and you just win the game. Very toxic gameplay, super strong, and a very powerful picking. Next we have Linglo. Now I'm going to talk about these 4 together, Linglo, Tiamat, Rahu, Holden, just because these are like the 4 core units right now for turn 2. I'll pair in Sonya as well, so these 5, and they're just really good at turn 2 play. Oh, I'll even put Kachi, right? These 6, okay. So Linglo, Tiamat, Rahu, Holden, Sonya, and Kachi the Guard. These are all, I wouldn't say equal in strength, they fit a similar role, right? They're basically there to not take the first turn and win with their cleave, but kind of just tank down on Bloodbath set from Aurora and kind of just win. So you'll see them a lot on defense. You can actually play them in RTA as well. They're very common. Not as common as like the cleave setups, the speed setups and stuff like that, but you will encounter them, and they're very strong because usually they're on like Amber, they're super tanky, or on Artisan and stuff like that. And basically you can't one-shot them off the opener and they solo your team down. They're all very good together. You can use them separately. You'll commonly see them paired with still like a speed opener like Lily or Mia or Mio or even Freya for defense buff and stuff like that, just because just giving up first turn entirely is pretty bad. But their strategy usually revolves around just like semi-contesting the first turn and then also just trying to survive the first hit and tank down and win. Very good. Tiamat, Rahu, and Holden are like the 3 primary damage dealers, and you have Linglo, Sonya, and Kachi are going to be the supports. Very good in turn 2 gameplay. It's like the only way to play it in my opinion currently. Next we have Borge, I don't know how to say it, Burger. Basically this guy is one of the best DPSs, just because of the fact that he has built-in lifesteal. He has a lot of bulk from his passive, and he can ignore enemies' passive. So he's a pretty strong character, mostly going to be used for PvP content instead of PvE, but I think he's super underrated. I wish I had him because I want to build him, but super strong as like a bruiser sustained kind of character that scales very well off attack. Next we have Viper. So Viper is kind of like a character that you think is in PvP or PvE only because he has the attack down, speed down, and dispel. But the reason why he's good in PvE is because those debuffs are so strong, and surprise surprise, in PvP they're amazing as well. He can cripple enemy teams completely by himself. He makes your team take less damage, which is insane, and he's just a very powerful support. I think he's criminally underrated. I use him for PvP a lot, and he's pretty crazy even at 5 stars, and I definitely recommend if you're looking for a good like support character that does a decent chunk of damage with his counterattacks as well. Viper is like a very strong character. Next we have Yeli, recently released right here. She's a pretty solid character. You want to build her faster for PvP in my opinion, and you can make it so that she can one-shot enemy teams very quickly. My defense team actually runs Lily and Yelly together. My Yelly's at like 270 speed, my Lily just boosts her up to the front, and she just one-shots people. She's very good because she multi-hits, so on Revelation, which you guys probably already know does a ton of damage, she can pretty much one-shot teams with just like a decent amount of attack investment because her multi-hits on her S3 is crazy, especially on one target when you follow up. Super strong character. I think not as good as Messiah for PvP, but still very good. And personally, I think, you know, there are ways to make her better than Messiah, especially on defense to surprise people. But overall, I think just damage-wise, she's pretty insane. And, you know, she is very, very good with her attack scaling, so you can sacrifice a lot of crit damage for just pure speed and attack. Next, we have Hoyan. So she's like a revenge killer, gets countered by things that can block her passive, anything that can CC her. But if you can pick her into team comps that can't do that, she can solo, so she's pretty solid. Nothing really much to say about her. She's just kind of like a revenge killer. I've seen her sometimes. I don't really use her that much, and I don't see her that much. But when you pick her into team comps that are, one, either very lacking in crowd control, or two, very one-dimensional and just trying to one-shot cleave you, like the standard Lily Messiah cleave, she can still, you know, just solo your team down. Heinrich, pretty decent PvP unit. I think he's a little overrated. He has like that block, which is very good. If you take the first turn with him, he's very good, but usually you're not gonna build him as the fastest on your team. Usually it's gonna be like your Lily or Mio or like your Freya even. And because of that, like, you know, he doesn't win you the game, if that makes sense. Like literally, if you're taking the first turn with these characters in the meta-defining tier, it doesn't really matter what you have as your second bridge unit. You can bring Heinrich, you can bring Kazio and stuff like that, and pretty much still win. Maybe you're doing it because you're afraid of Bulwark, then he's very good. But outside of taking off Bulwark and immunity, I don't think he's like special in any regard. Rosa, very solid DPS. Not as good as Burger because, you know, she doesn't have sustain and stuff like that. She's not really that tanky. But, you know, in terms of damage, she's pretty solid. Follow-up attacks are good. I think she's just like pretty decent DPS. There's not a lot of good DPSs right now. Dining, very solid character. Very underrated. I think people think of him as like a PvE god, which he is. But there's like a specific PvP build you can run on him. Like you run him like a little bit quicker, like at 200 speed on Swift Raid. And then you also run him on Count, the shell. And he becomes super tanky and it's super annoying to deal with. That Dining build I've seen in PvP sometimes, and it's like pretty frustrating because his first S3 one-shots you, second S3 one-shots you, and then if you're ever doing chip damage on him, if you don't one-shot him, he can lifesteal it back up with Count, which is super frustrating. Kraken, very good CC character. I think he's underrated. He is super frustrating. He just CCs your team. He gets frozen. He deep freezes you. He's pretty decently bulky as well. So, pretty solid character overall. Marvel, always going to be good. He just pushes you back, silences you. Super frustrating. If he takes the first turn, you win. He also has a Dispel. Honestly, I kind of want to put him higher, but I think people are not picking him as much anymore. I'm not really too sure why, but he definitely still a strong character. Mia, pretty solid support, reduces your cooldowns. She also has a pushback on her S2, which is very annoying, and a Dispel, so you can use her in place of Marvel and like Heinrich kind of, while having more utility. Pretty strong character because of that. Next we have Lian. So Lian is the main character of the game. People will think she's bad, but in PvP she's quite good. She just requires investment into her S3. She does very solid burst damage, and then she has a turn meter pushback as well. So she's basically an AoE burster with turn pushback, which is amazing. And she has pretty decent damage with her S2 as well, and she has sustain in her S1, which is not the biggest deal because she's squishy, but I think she's very underrated if you can make her fast. You don't really need to build too much damage on her, and she does pretty decent burst. Doki Doki, very strong support, but requires a lot of lattice investment, so I don't think a lot of people invested into her fully, but she is pretty good in PvP for pushing people up and making your team faster in longer fights. The only problem is, like, she has a lot of RNG in her kit in terms of like what characters her buffs go on. So because of that, not the most consistent, but when she hits, she hits. Hellkid, very strong, especially after his buff, or not buff, but like the bug fix. Before his S2 didn't contribute to his shield, now it does. Basically, if you take the turn with Hellkid ever, and you're not already debuffed, you pretty much win the game. You get a very thick barrier, he does decent chunk of AoE damage, and he gives you immunity for however long that barrier's up, which is like 2 or 3 turns usually. Very strong. He also has attack down. if you can make him go early into the turn cycle, he will carry you. The problem is his base speed's pretty low, so he needs help doing that anyways. And like I mentioned, the same thing with something like Heinrich. Usually if you're taking the first turn and you're helping him take his turn, there's a lot of other characters where if you do that as well, you just win the game. So you can't rate him any higher because he does need some help taking that turn. Next up, we have Veronica, pretty cheesy unit with her like cheat death, like can't die thing that she has, her soul ward. But I've seen people play her, they like run like a huge like comp around her with like bulwark sets and that one shell that gives you void state. I think it's like law of silence or something. So it's like a very niche comp, but it's pretty good when it works, so I put her here. I don't think she's like okay or mid, but I think if you run her in a specific comp like that, she's actually very annoying. Selins, I see her in some defense teams because of her S3, it disables passives. I think it's very annoying to deal with as well. The only problem is that you do need to make her go first and kind of like, you know, cut the enemy team off and before they actually like activate their passives. And also the thing is like she gets countered by immunity pretty easily. She also, you know, does not have the fastest base speed, so it's pretty hard to make her work. But I think like people pair her with Lily a lot so she can take the first turn, but very niche comp, you know, still strong, but I don't think it's really worth too much investing into. Next we have the OK tier. These characters are all okay. Not gonna really talk about them because they're very one-dimensional. I'll talk about a select few here. Chiaki's very good in like tank down comps. You can kind of use her in like Sonya's place, but I think Sonya's slightly better. Rina's a very good damage dealer, but you need to have a very fast team and you need to build around her speed passive. So you need to have speed down on your team and you want speed up. Chiaki, the Echo, is very good if you make her fast. She's kind of like a Lily replacement. And she can AoE push up your team and give them attack buff for cleaving. I would recommend her only for the early game. She gets outsped quite easily later on. You have something like, you know, Obel, who's good at stunning, Vice, who has a very good AoE pushback and attack down, and even something like number 41, which is an R unit that is kind of like Chiaki, but a little bit worse now. But yeah, this was the tier list, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Keep in mind this is for Season 0, the season that just ended in Server 1. And we'll be updating this like every month or two when the seasons rotate because the meta is always shifting. And I think right now with how early the game is in release, you'll see like a lot of turn 1 characters are very strong because a lot of people don't have Bulwark and Immunity farmed up yet. And most people only have like those strong PvE characters built. So those PvE characters usually get countered by those very fast characters. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.